My name is Josh Utterback. I'm with the City of Scottsdale Economic Development Department, and I'm happy to introduce Herb C. and Sarah Fustine from Think Big Partners. They've been working with us for over 9 months now. This is a long-awaited opportunity to share what we have for the Smart Cities Strategic Roadmap. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the team members. I can remember being tapped back in September-ish of 2019 from Rob saying, Brent Stockwell would like you to lead the team for the strategic roadmap, and I couldn't be more happier with the team that we've had. They've done a fantastic job, and Sarah and Herb have done a great job of engaging the stakeholders. I know both Councilwoman Clapp and Councilwoman Whitehead, as well as Councilwoman Millhaven, have engaged with them as well. So the members from the city staff that were part of it too were Brent Stockwell, Brad Hardig, Mercedes McPherson, Patrick Nelson, and Rob Millar. Really excited to hear from Sarah and Herb. So from here, they're going to take it away and provide a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, who would like to begin?
Great, thanks so much, Josh, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Herb C. with Think Big Partners, and on behalf of our company and my colleague, Sarah Fustine, we would like to thank you for allowing us to join you from Kansas City. We're sorry that we can't be there in person, but we're glad to be able to join you virtually today. And real quick, just before we get started, if there are any audio issues, please let us know. I'm assuming that everything's okay. Great, thank you very much. Well, we're very excited to be here today. Approximately 6 months ago, we were retained by the City of Scottsdale to help you create Scottsdale's Smart City Strategic Roadmap. Today, we are excited to share a summary of our recommendations, of which there is a full report that is available in a written format, along with a very short executive summary or a briefing for those of you that would rather just get the high-level notes. And I believe that those are available to you, and especially will be available after today's presentation. Our goal today is to refresh a few key concepts, to include providing some insights along with current events that we think will be relevant for you. So today's agenda is going to be some of these reminders. It's going to talk about themes, technology layers, the recommendations, and certainly the next steps. It's also organized as such to allow for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So we'd invite you to be able to write those down and let us know what they may be so we can be of service to you. The report itself is organized by themes and further organized by clusters. Those themes and clusters together should be able to provide you a good organized view of not only the things that are most important for the city, but also the correlation between various assets, both hardware and software, and even the data that goes with that to be able to help you understand the impact and the other things that go into a smart city master planning. It is organized by impact. It is prioritized further by looking at projects and timelines. And lastly, it is given to you in a way to where we've given consideration to especially the top-down leadership mission, vision, and goals that you've been so kind to share with us over the course of the last few months, along with the voice of your citizens that we've been able to obtain through a series of workshops and interactions and interviews that really would be evident within this plan. So a few reminders before we get going. The first thing is that this plan is really based on a couple things. We understand that the return on investment of both time and money is critical for every city, especially in today's economy. We know that city budgets are stressed, and certainly the Smart City Roadmap that we're going to present will hopefully be able to help you achieve some of the goals that you've laid out. Additionally, we want to acknowledge up front that every plan has got trade-offs that you have to consider. There is no perfect plan because in every recommendation that is made, there's always the reality of technology, the data, the cost, the complexity, and the timing. So while there's no perfect plan that doesn't include a level of trade-offs, but we believe that the trade-offs and the recommendations that we'll make will hopefully be consistent with the goals that you have in mind. Before we get started, we'd like to also especially point out that while smart cities usually conjure up visions of technologies and sensors and other things with blinking lights, it is really not about the technology. It is about the impact to the people, the residents, the businesses, and the tourists, and everyone else that comes to visit the beautiful city of Scottsdale. But clearly, smart city technology is about people. If you were to take a technology view, however, of a typical smart city, you might see things like traffic management, which is in the upper left-hand corner, or you may see smart parking, which is in the bottom 6 o'clock position, or you may even see smart streetlights, which is in the far right position at the 4 to 5 o'clock position. Those are examples of impact areas associated often with hardware. But the most important thing also to remember, it's not just about the hardware, it's about the software and the data that goes with this. Data is becoming increasingly more important, and it's the lifeblood for good decision making for every good city. And it's not just about what the data can do from a diagnostic or even a descriptive basis, but ultimately for cities to be able to move towards a predictive or even a prescriptive, which means understanding oftentimes what's going to happen before it takes place and taking corrective action or proactively making decisions before events can transpire. If you were to take a citizen view, the impact is a little bit different. While the hardware and software and the data are certainly very important, the citizens view this a little bit differently. In front of you, you'll see 8 different domains. And if we look at even the domains, such as the top one depicted by mobility, mobility can be transferred back to the last slide in terms of parking or smart transportation and traffic management. And you all live in a community that you're very lucky that you have shorter than average commute times compared to the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. But citizens are very concerned with how long it takes, how easy it is to go from point A to point B, and all the other things that you look at. So mobility, security, healthcare, and the other 5 that you see in front of you. These are how the citizens look at the impact of the technology. And the most effective technology platforms, we think, are those that operate usually seamlessly and invisibly in the background while enabling cities to be able to save money, make better decisions, and do other things that create a great quality of life. On this slide, you'll notice that these are some of the areas that have impacts and metrics assigned to them. If you were to look at the commute time, in your community, your average commute time is 20 minutes one way, and that compares to the Phoenix metro area at 26.4 minutes. So you're already enjoying lower than average commute times. However, as communities grow, and certainly yours is growing, like many other communities in Maricopa County, those commute times can be increased over time. The ability is one example for the smart technology applications to really be able to preserve the high quality of life that makes both residents want to live there, businesses want to do business there, and people want to come visit there, can be transferred into the commute time where the impact cannot be understated. The technology for typical applications can usually improve commute times by 15 to 20%. And what does that mean for a community like yours? Well, the cost of time and money and the resource allocation to investing in a smart city directly translates on average in your case to a savings per resident per year of approximately $1,207. And if you were to apply that and reinvest that into your economy, that economic impact or the GDP impact to Scottsdale is about $316 million. So the ability to be able to create a community that has lower than average commute times, good health, job creation, cost of living, or all the other metrics that you may see in front of you cannot be understated, and this is the role that technology can play. It's also nice to know that current events can also be considered. So oftentimes over the course of the last number of years, technology has adapted to things as they become more and more important. In the past 12 weeks, we've seen unprecedented change and sometimes forced transformation. So even in the COVID-19 public health pandemic crisis that we're all going through, the ability for communities to look at technology such as contact tracing, it could be things to be able to monitor who is where and how far apart you may be, the ability to understand the public health concerns, or even looking at the public safety impact for the aftermath of recent events with George Floyd and the unfortunate events and the impact for other things. These are all types of applications that can exist within the public safety and the public health space under the smart city umbrella, that all these current events can be played out on long-term investments in technology that can have a real impact.
So during this engagement, we used our design thinking process to gather feedback from stakeholders through our discovery phase. We met with each of you, and we're happy to be here with you at the conclusion of this to present this back to you. In addition to the internal stakeholders, we met with department heads city leadership. We met with the business community. We met with small businesses. We had a public engagement event in December where we had about 55 attendees and 88 registrants. Certainly people were expressing interest in being involved. And as we got into our design phase, we had another citizen engagement session focused on feedback from some of our conclusions and some of the visions that we were having to further curate and amplify the message to make sure that the citizen voice was truly involved in what we are presenting to you today. We will also be presenting to the Scottsdale IDA as part of the partial funding that they helped for this engagement. So this report is centered around 7 themes. These themes are what we would encourage you to consider the smart city themes for Scottsdale. You will see that they line up with Scottsdale's strategic goals, which are noted in the full report. So here you'll see a graphic which represents these themes. Starting up in the top right, smart leadership. This is representative of the collaboration with regional entities, other Maricopa County businesses, as well as the county itself and municipalities throughout the state. The smart economy theme represents workforce, academia, the entrepreneur ecosystem, opportunities for economic development related to technology, especially, and this would align with the support economic vitality strategic goal. Smart governance and data represents the transparency, the policy. A big aspect to technology is certainly this piece here. It is, data is the new whale. It is important to consider that in many aspects of projects, and it is also an opportunity, but it is, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Smart environment and sustainability, which aligns with the preserve meaningful open space and seek sustainability strategic goals. Smart community, which represents creating neighborhoods that are inclusive, social services, engaging the community. This aligns with the strategic goal, enhance neighborhoods. In the smart mobility theme, this is aligns with advanced transportation, but not only transportation. Mobility should also include the way that you move throughout the city. So it could include pedestrian wayfinding, micro-mobility with scooters, bikes, so forth and so forth. And then smart livability, which really reflects the unique character and lifestyle of Scottsdale. This would be the theme where public safety, culture, health, housing, life experiences, and your high quality of life is at the center of all of these themes. With success in each theme, the quality of life will be preserved, maintained, and the reputation of Scottsdale will be upheld. Oops. On technology layers, we think it's important to explain how some of our recommendations interlay with each other. A truly holistic smart city plan is not straightforward and linear, and some of the complexity is due to the foundational, enabling, and impacting layers. So you can think of these foundational layers, which includes both infrastructure, technology, and policy. You can think of this as a base layer. Then that's on top of that is an enabling layer, which is kind of like applications on top of the foundation, and then impacting layer, which is where you can enhance the technology with the information and the data that you're getting. Throughout the report, the recommendations are marked as such, and some foundational technology and recommendations are necessary for other things to be progressed.
So on this slide, you'll see that the different themes are the header, and we've clustered some of the different recommendations, which the recommendations may involve various hardware and software and even data functions. The reason we've organized it in this way is, first of all, these clusters represent opportunities to be able to support specific goals based on your mission, vision, and goals of your top level plans. They also represent opportunities oftentimes to be able to find ways to be able to work together in public-private partnerships, create procurement strategies, and really have things work together, because in unison, the sum truly is greater than the parts, but the parts in various layers and correlation really are important to understand, because many of the partners that work together, both internal and external to the city, are going to be involved to be able to make these different goals or these themes occur. So the first one that we'll look at is smart leadership. Smart leadership really, in this case, we've centered around digital connectivity. What does that mean? Well, connectivity is the lifeblood for every community. If you have hardware and now connected hardware using Internet of Things or IoT technology, it's going to require some type of connectivity layer, usually 4G or 5G, or in some cases, other types of protocols. In areas that there's not adequate signal because there may be high growth or there may be increased load, small cell densification, which means being able to enhance current signals by putting in more antenna systems and ability to transmit more data, again, that data being the lifeblood of a community and the oil, is going to be very important. FirstNet is a recommendation that's in addition to the digital connectivity. For those of you who are not familiar with FirstNet, FirstNet represents a dedicated first responder network that, especially at the time of a crisis, they're going to be able to be ensured of connectivity. Unlike if you're in a stadium during the big game and you're trying to get on your phone to send out a tweet, you may not be able to access the network. FirstNet allows your community, and you've already done a good job in some of the use cases, to be able to make sure that you have connectivity when you need it most. Lastly, the smart multi-sensor nodes. These are nodes that offer different things like temperature, optical sensors, which are different than cameras. It could be things that have noise pollution or environmental sensing. It has multiple things, but the hardware that's installed, once installed, similar to the applications that are on your phone, like accelerometers or cameras or light detectors, can then be further enabled using software to it and allow additional enhanced functions. Together, this supports the mission, vision, goals of leadership and provides the first layer that's very important to be able to help accomplish the additional goals. The smart economy piece really shifts now to looking at urban planning and economic development strategies. In the case of the urban planning, you all in your region are leaders in looking at things like autonomous vehicles and the role that they're going to play as they come online. Clearly, autonomous vehicles, while they're being worked on and are very advanced, we're not quite there at level 5 autonomy yet today, but both between transportation and mobility, which we talked about a little bit earlier in this presentation, along with housing and other policies that affect those two, is really vital to be able to attract and retain both people and companies to be able to really create urban planning policies that support economic development strategies. On the economic development strategy side, some of the smart city technologies are really designed to be able to help enable communities for all ages. We interviewed people that were still in high school and junior high school to even the aging community, that if you can build a community that allows for workforce and non-traditional education to be paired up with the ability to move about a community, be able to live, work, and find high quality jobs on the education, these really have an impact to be able to attract that talent that's going to be your next generation workforce. By the way, studies have shown also that those folks that are living longer than ever, that are working in the workforce longer, or that are graduating from college, they want to live in these progressive, smart cities. Why? Because they've got more different modes of transit, they've got more ability to have equity, and they've got the ability to make more informed choices using technology to enhance the quality of their life. On this slide, you'll see smart governance and data. One of the things that's very important for a city like yours is to be able to ingest the data on a master data platform, which means that you'll be able to take in the data from different sensors, be able to apply different algorithms, analysis, and be able to look at the impact of the different decisions that you can make. The master data platform is very important to be able to ingest it. It can allow you to be able to provide decisions and insights, and even allows the citizens to be able to get a good look at that data. The data policies, also very important. We're on the eve of what they call the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, being enacted here on July 1st. That act allows for the commercial use of data, but it provides limitations and guidelines for cities to be able to adhere to make sure that the commercial use is fair and the citizen's voice is very well represented. We live in a world today that our phones know everything about us. And while that may be true, we as the city must be able to make sure that we're using the data responsibly, but it's vital that we use the data that's available to be able to make smart business decisions.
For smart environment and sustainability, smart streetlights was a cluster of technology we would recommend. There is an opportunity for the city to upgrade its 6,000 city-owned streetlight poles. And we would also suggest coordination with APS and SRP. The key for smart streetlights is that serves as a digital infrastructure that can live on for other technologies. It becomes a Lego of sorts where you can plug and play on the smart sensor nodes. It is a great way to implement technology throughout the city and use that to expand to other lights in the future, create standards, so on and so forth. Part of that is gunshot detection. This would be a technology that is typically applied to smart streetlights, and whether it's the feeling of safety or the ability for responders to answer in threat scenarios, especially in public spaces and events where Scottsdale has a high reputation that needs to be upheld, and the ability to give that information and data to the first responders increases the chance for capturing a criminal. The smart water technologies we would suggest continuing the automated metering system upgrades that have already been in place. You have a phenomenal water department right now with some very good efficiency. It's about halfway done with 40,000 AMR and 10,000 AMI of the total 90,000 meters. Those are approximate numbers. So continuing to implement that program will continue to save money, and while it is already efficient, it is important to continue to increase that two-way communication that is enabled through those technologies with the customers and enhance the customer experience of the citizens of Scottsdale. In smart community, the key to success for most of this entire program is really going to be the involvement with the citizens. We've started this project with the involvement of them, and it should be an ongoing, and we cannot stress this enough, an ongoing conversation, having a mechanism for their voices to be heard and included, so on and so forth. In fact, it is so important that we would suggest if you don't involve the citizens' voice throughout the program, there is chance for some backfire. Brent Stockwell actually sent an article, I think it was 2 days ago, stating that the way ahead for smart cities is for civic and IT leaders to emphasize solutions that are both practical and data-driven and not pushed by technology vendors or hype. Ultimately, they need to demonstrate real value for residents. And that is exactly the tune that we would suggest implementing this entire program around. So the communication plan cannot be stressed enough.
Smart mobility covers a number of things. And what's interesting to note is that for the first time in history, in modern history, of course, that vehicle ownership is dropping. And the ability to be able to understand the relationship between being able to move to and from with ease, with the least amount of friction, safely, and in multiple modes of transit, were reflected in not only a number of the studies and looking at the different applications that are available, but also in the voice of many of the people that we interviewed, to include the business community and the younger people that we interviewed as well. So this includes everything from the data that can inform good rerouting, signal optimization. This data can inform good planning, and that can help intelligent traffic signals be able to do everything from preemption to be able to look at synchronization. But this is all in an effort to be able to help people go from point A to point B in the mode of their choice as quickly, as seamlessly, as safely as possible. And it's not only reducing what they call vehicle miles traveled, but really ultimately reducing that thing that we looked at earlier called time. So the quality of life really in a community is often marked by the ease that you can move about it, and to include when autonomous vehicles come online here, hopefully in the near future, the policies that you're making will hopefully support an additional mode of transit that will become available. Smart parking systems are also very important, but it isn't just the obvious of being able to have a system to where you don't have to talk to an attendant coming in or out of a parking garage. It's the ability to find the right spot, know when it's vacant, know if it'll fit your vehicle, all the way down to payment systems, making it easy to pay in e-pay scenarios in a safe, secure manner where consumers are demanding the ability to have all these things at their fingertips, oftentimes in a mobile platform, which you all have done a good job building that as well.
So smart livability. Scottsdale has a high quality of life national rating. You always score well there. But it is key to maintain that. What is it going to look like 10 years from now? And I know that is on your mind to continue to maintain that high quality of life. We would suggest continuing the digital transformation process that you all have already started by continuing to move towards digital citizen services and expand the mobile engagement platform. Currently, the websites are optimized for web and for web and mobile use. We would suggest consideration and participation in the conversation around a statewide app. And the key here is really to, again, involve the citizen voice and have a way for two-way communication, the city to the residents and residents back. This would, some features we would certainly encourage consideration for are things that can help with tourism and wayfinding, the ability to pay mobily or find a parking spot. With the integration of other technologies and infrastructure, that those features will continue to expand. That is also, contact tracing would be a perfect example of something that could be implemented in our current events. And then for optical sensors and camera systems, we mentioned briefly before, but specifically from a public safety standpoint, increasing that sense of security, increasing tourism, and helping the ability to protect that reputation and enable people counting so that you can understand how many people came, where they're moving to and from. Be able to have technology and data at your fingertips to enable decision-making and planning.
So over the course of the last 25 minutes or so, we've talked about 7 different themes. We've looked at 8 different domains that the citizens care about. And really, if we were to look at a couple key takeaways, we hope you'll walk away with this today. On the data side, the role of data is more important than ever. The data-driven insights to be able to make good, effective decisions, and also being able to defend the decisions that you make is critical, and data is very, very telling. It's important to understand not only the value of the data, but what types of data can be valuable. It's important to understand the use cases, the needs, and to be able to look at the problems that you're trying to solve and the role that data can play, while also understanding that if you don't understand the reason why you're collecting data, there may be reasons occasionally to not even collect that data, to store it or save it, especially in light of the CCPA regulations. But the role of data that can be captured from the Internet of Things devices and the connectivity to be able to control your city is not to be understated. From a citizen engagement side, the ability to have an ongoing relationship with your voice of the customer being the citizens, the residents, and your tourists, the ability to understand their needs really provides a co-creation mentality, which means if you can use an ongoing mindset of design thinking to understand what people need and how you all can best serve their needs while still delivering the services, reducing costs, improving workflow processes, and understanding the responsibility that the cities have to the citizens and the businesses to perform your functions, the role that you can play, whether it's engaging them with live events or digitally through the mobile platform or in other mechanisms. That citizen engagement is vital to every community, and it's dynamic, it's always changing, and it's important to continue to build that trust and continue that trust that you already have built with that engagement. The sensorization really means that the ability to understand those problems can often be addressed by not just the hardware, but once the hardware is installed, it's the software, the additional ability to capture more value based on the software, taking those sensors in the forms of multi-node sensors, optical sensors, could be environmental sensors or whatnot, but the ability to understand the sensorization really can be used as an opportunity to solve problems. Similar to the next smartphone that you may buy, you don't even know that you need a sensor until you have it, and the functional use cases are emerging, but they become very valuable once you have them. And then lastly, understanding the connectivity. And this really means two things. Connectivity in the digital sense and the technology sense means the ability to understand that the growth of every community is going to require more spectrum, the ability to have fiber, hardware talking through software, and understanding the data and the platform. This is a technology recipe, and the connectivity is very important. But it's also connectivity to your community. You all are part of a great community, and the regional connectivity to be able to interplay as a region. People go to work, they may travel to other communities, but be able to live, work, play, and understand the connectivity that the region plays together is also vital for your economy and for the citizens' lives who transfer from one township to the next township without even thinking twice. But collectively, these four elements we hope are the key takeaways, if nothing else. Lastly, here are a few next steps that we would recommend. Every good plan or every good roadmap really requires people to get on the same sheet of music, and we hope that today we've provided you some insight to be able to help you take those next steps. But be able to understand that the key stakeholder collaboration, who should be at the table, who needs to be involved in the execution, whether it's regionally or within the city or even within a department, understanding the problems you're trying to solve, the goals and opportunities that are in front of you, making sure that people understand the why before the what, and then the what becomes an opportunity to look strategically and tactically. If you look at the third bullet, the requirements are very important to understand too. It's about people. Who's going to be involved? What's the timeline based on the plan? What policies need to be put in place? How do we need to communicate this to the public or other stakeholders or partners? Procurement obviously plays a role. What's the best way to procure? There's multiple methods. In the report, you'll see some recommendations. And then lastly, the financing. There are opportunities to be able to create public-private partnerships, performance-based financing, or other opportunities to be able to pay for projects, but all these are included in the report. Lastly, to wrap up, managing each project to completion is important, but what does that mean? Well, again, going back to engaging the community, who's going to use the technology? Who's going to benefit from the impact? How do you understand the financial resources that are needed? Being able to understand what changes you make at the inception of a project to get it to completion, but making sure that it's in the shape that needs to be in upon delivery. The procurement strategies, the platforms, all of these are really important to be able to get it from start to finish. And within this, there's always, of course, experts, partners, regional collaborators, or other people who can help you get this done. This is all part of a good, ongoing smart city program. It's integrated with the stakeholders. It's got multiple components, and it's an ongoing exercise. And lastly, we understand, especially in these times, being able to be very sensitive to the national market trends, what the public sentiment may be, and being able to understand that it's a bilateral exchange to be able to educate the public in that public voice. The opportunity to be able to listen to the biggest stakeholder, which is of the citizens, but it's also an opportunity for them to listen to you too. That engagement between the two parties, be able to help educate each other, work together through this co-creation mentality is important. So these are all the next steps that we would recommend. Hopefully this will give you some good insight. And this concludes our formal presentation. At this point in time, we invite for you to ask us questions. And again, as a reminder, there are written plans in the full document and also a summary extract available to you. But we thank you very much for your time and attention from Kansas City remotely today to be able to present to you the Scottsdale Smart City Strategic Roadmap.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from any of the other committee members? I guess
Councilwoman Clapp, if I could just jump in and add one more thing. I just want to acknowledge that this couldn't have been possible without the grant from the Scottsdale IDA and also some donations from some private donors. It was fully funded, and that's fantastic that we had some cooperation. I just want to acknowledge those donors real quick. Digital Progress, Cisco, Cox, Logicalis, and Slalom. And the grant from Scottsdale IDA, this was fully funded, and we're excited to see where it goes from here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It appears to me that maybe Rob or Brent or others are trying to look right now at what's the stakeholder group that's going to come together to discuss all this. Am I correct about that? Robin? You get it, you hit shake yes, okay. I said that according to the next steps, there's to be a group of stakeholders that are going to be pulled together to discuss some of this and see which way we want to head initially. Is that correct?
Here is that we will also be doing a presentation to the Industrial Development Authority. We're getting the draft report out to all of the people that participated in this process. So all of the stakeholders, everyone that came to each one of the meetings to get their feedback on it. And then what we'll be doing is a more full release in the fall. So after people get back and school's back in session, we'll share that more broadly publicly. And then we'll bring it forward to be accepted as a consent item on a future council agenda. And the timing of that will work really well for us because that'll be helpful for us as we go through the budget and the capital improvement process for fiscal year 21-22.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.